since the last Thursday night football.
That's Tom Brady.
Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dimzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Andy, I think, hopefully, we've solved our cyber attack gremlins, and you will be getting this podcast live on your Apple feed. And you are watching us live on YouTube right now.
Scott Newman's already set a line over under a chat message from Patrick by 10 minutes from now, Central Time. Which Patrick? There's two. We are full of Patricks, and yes, it is week 2. We had a good week 1 betting. He's at the Cardinals game.
Good week.
Team totals that we couldn't decide on a team total, and I just said, "Fuck it, we're doing both." And they both were. Neither of them got to double digits. Those worked out nicely. A lot of the totals were good. The Raiders
even the auxiliary ones like Falcons team total over was good.
Yeah, basically everything we said for team totals was pretty solid. So,
dude, I needed a good opening week. I needed it.
We had a bad opening week last year, and it
felt good.
It really felt good. We were in Vegas, crunk at the pool. Everything was popping. We're doing. I have a video of you shotgunning a beer with some random minor celebrity on Instagram. Allegedly, our following wasn't as big as she said, but she still was very nice, and she was a Broncos fan. So sorry about that, I guess. And yeah, we did not plan to both dress as Steve Jobs today, but here we are, ready to unveil, the whatever we're gonna do here.
Yeah, let's break down week 2. But before we do, I just wanted to comment on one thing. Market has been very quiet this week. Very quiet. It's just started bubbling a little bit as you got the Wednesday injury reports in, and there was like 10 surprises that might matter. Which
as we go through the games, we'll touch on them.
We'll mention them.
Some of them I do feel like are some load management, even though
I think that's a lot of this, because a ton of it was like, I saw that guy's last snap and he looked completely fine. So
and guys can tweak stuff in practice, but we'll touch on it again. It's Wednesday. We'll find out more as the week goes.
But otherwise, it's been really quiet this week. It's been really quiet.
There was some movement on a few totals today. There was a movement on one side that we'll get to. Real quick, too, off the top, question on the Twitter feed. And by all means, if you have questions, hit us at Deep Dive Pod. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because there is no correct answer. But JR, the 5th, answers Wong teasers. He says, is it better to play the legs in order of preference and allocate units accordingly, or should I just round robin them all evenly? Yes.
There's no one way.
It's, pick a path and take it, and I think stick to it. It feels like one of those where if you mix and match every single week, you're just going to have a lot of frustration. Yeah. I know it's frustrating to put something like the Rams or the Niners in a teaser with the Vikings where just one leg crushes. Happens all the time. I don't love telling people, like, just because I'm a content guy and I'm giving out plays here, I don't like saying, hey, I bet like 93 Wong teasers in a round robin for smaller amounts. Like, that's have fun tailing that. So I kind of pick the ones I actually play, and I play them for a fair amount, and then I do both. And then I'll round robin basically any of the Wong legs all together for smaller amounts. And I think that's I don't know what, that's the way I would, if I had to pick one way, I would do the round robining and just get a lot of exposure.
Yeah. So that's kind of one of the things that's funny about parlays and the way that people kind of comment on parlays. Like, if you have a plus EV leg and it's plus EV, then putting it in a parlay makes that much better, because you're getting more liquidity down on that bet than just the dollars you placed on that bet. And so realistically, round robining every which way you can makes sense to me. Wong teaser leg is fundamentally a plus EV play.
By its very nature, at the core of the number, you are paying less than you should
Yes.
Because you're paying about minus 273 for that parlay leg, and it should be like what 330, something like that. So you're getting a good number no matter what. Feel free to round robin the shit out of them.
Okay. So one last thing before we get to the games.
That was a good call though, Charles.
Before we get to the games, did you have a macro takeaway from week 1? Or is your macro takeaway not to take away anything?
I think the biggest thing I'm stuck on is I'm just so mad that I wasn't able to really evaluate Trey Lance's first real game.
Yeah, right. That's annoying.
That pissed me off beyond belief. I think my biggest takeaway is I was right on a bunch of the quarterbacks, and some of it didn't matter. I don't think Daniel Jones is taking meaningful steps forward. They still won. Saquon had a really good game. I think the Tua thing still has some time to hash out, but I think maybe the pieces around him have been enough to make him look serviceable. That might be the ceiling, is serviceable. So it feels good to be right on some of these quarterbacks that we had big questions on, and I'll continue to evaluate that. And the other macro takeaway is there was not an offensive rookie that did shit. Yeah. Treylon Burks had he had a few catches, but the guy only had 5 targets. I mean, a bunch of guys didn't get a lot of snaps. A bunch of guys didn't get any targets for receivers. Obviously, no quarterbacks played. The running back, Breece Hall, sucked. I mean, Kenneth Walker hasn't played yet. There's just not been an offensive rookie that stood out. There was a defensive rookie. Should we spend 30 seconds on him before we jump into the game?
We'll get into that.
He plays for it?
I just want to see if
we'll get into it on the Thursday game.
Yeah, I just want to see if you think this holds water. It felt like on a macro sense that if you were a team broadly that exceeded expectations last year, you kind of sucked it up in week 1. Maybe you didn't take preseason seriously. Maybe your offseason was a little, you mailed it in a little bit here or there. I'm looking at the Rams. I'm looking at the Packers.
I was going to say
at the Bengals. I'm looking at the Titans to a degree. Like every team that either between regular season wins exceeding expectations or playoff success exceeded expectations, I felt like really did not show in week 1. And I feel like that there's an angle there that I remember a bunch of people have blogged about for years and years and years, where playoff teams coming in against non-playoff teams, there's always a little bit of an axe to grind there. So I think just tread carefully with some of the dog conclusions that you draw from teams that were up, for teams that were up against, somebody that wasn't playing for much, particularly in the preseason.
No, that's a good one.
Let's talk about this Thursday night football game. Somebody mentioned it, and we should give them credit. Nick C. This has got to be the best TNF game in years. This is the best TNF game since the last time we saw these two teams played on TNF, which was the end of last season, and really decided the fate of the Chargers' playoff hopes, as well as the AFC West tilting in balance of the Chiefs. That was a dead even. Those two teams were dead even at the top of the divisions, much like they are at this moment, and really kind of helped glide the way for the Chiefs to get the 2 seed in a crowded AFC last year. Not that mattered because they lost the home AFC championship game, but I thought that in general, these two teams match up well and provide very excellent football. And I'm very excited for this game. We're, of course, talking about the Chargers and the Chiefs who play on Thursday Night Football. The Chiefs market has been hot this week. I'll just comment on, we expected this to be a -3 spread. We postulated, and I asked some smart people last week, what do you think has to happen to get to a 3.5 so we can back the Chargers? And lo and behold, it's 4 right now. This has been largely due to Chargers injuries, I suppose.
I have one other thing that I think maybe it's not affecting the market, but it's what I believe would keep me away from backing the Chargers, even at a 4.5 or 5. But yeah, I mean, the Keenan Allen thing is very important. Not only is he a contributor, but Williams plays differently when he's not on the field. It becomes a different offense, and they still have a lot of pieces. Obviously that it's another good pass rush they're going to go up, but I really focused in on what And I had to read like 6 articles to get like a good take on this because I'm not a good film guy. Also, I don't have the patience to sit and even watch the quick ones where it's like, here, watch the whole game again. Like, buddy, I got kids.
You don't have the consolidated film in your daily routine.
I will do that, but I can't do every game at a time. Ain't nobody got time for that. But it's how do we replace Tyreek Hill? You can't do it. First off, that's the answer. It's impossible. It doesn't happen. So you have to change things. And maybe not everyone was super excited about who they brought in personnel wise, but it did become a different kind of scheme where it's like, all right, the focus is Kelsey. So you get Kelsey in there. I believe this was an Athletic article that really nailed down what was happening. And he did see this in their formations. But when Kelsey comes in, he's not a tight end. I mean, he's a wide receiver essentially. So you cover a tight end. You can cover a tight end with a D end, an off-ball linebacker. With Kelsey, you need someone smaller. You got to bring up a safety. You got to bring up maybe even a slot corner. You got to have somebody slighter, smaller, faster, better at coverage to cover a guy like that. And what they started doing here in the game, and you saw the offense was very good. Even again, some of that was the Cardinals missing some pieces and just generally not being good at defense. They brought in multiple, like 2-3 tight ends for a lot more formations than they did last year. And they made you kind of, again, pick your poison because they're not all Kelsey. But if you just want to focus on Kelsey and they have, another tight end that can go out for into the short flats, and they still have some good receivers. They have CEH that was grabbing shovel passes like gangbuster. Like it worked. So they kind of reimagined their general formation groups that they're using. And again, maybe a bit of an overreaction because of the Cardinals missing pieces on defense and how that matched up. But at the same time, when we talk about the Chargers last year, we always say like the Chargers defense matches up so well against the Chiefs. Well, it matched up so well against what the Chiefs did last year. And that's the biggest thing. Will they quickly come onto that safety shell that what they were using last year to take Tyreek out of things? I don't know if you can make that adjustment that quick. Not only that, from 1 week of film, but also into a Thursday game. Oh shit, We got to do what we did. We can't do what we did last year to stop this offense because it's not the same offense, and it fucking worked. So I'm really worried about the Chargers not being this defensive matchup nightmare anymore for the Chiefs, and for that reason, I'm probably going to play some Chiefs overs on some of the ancillary receivers and just some props and stay away from this game in general because backing the Chiefs numbers got out of hand. The total is high. And I actually worry about what some of these pass rushers will do against the Trey Pipkins the third and things of that nature. So I'm a little worried about the Chargers here. And I like them long term.
Pipkins was fine.
Against who,
so against like Crosby,
I guess.
And Chandler Jones.
Does Crosby line up on the left?
I think it was Chandler Jones a lot of the time. Yeah, because it was Chandler Jones. I saw Chandler Jones versus Slater, and it was Crosby versus.
So Crosby was over on the Pipkin side. Sioux Falls native or Sioux Falls product.
All right, so a couple thoughts. I agree generally with your takes. I will only add that one of the reasons that the Kansas City offense looked unfucking stoppable last week. Well, there's two. One, they had an extra week to prepare. It was a complete surprise what they were going to do.
Andy Reid rest.
And oh, by the way, the Cardinals walked up there and they were throwing home run batting practice to Aaron Judge. They were blitzing and not getting close to getting home, which
constantly
means
blitzing.
Like if you constructed the worst all-time defense to run against Pat Mahomes is what Gus Bradley did, as we know. The second worst is what Vance Joseph was doing last week because he didn't have any skill, he didn't have any talent on the field, and then he was specifically handicapping his guys. So that literally might as well have been a walkthrough for the Chiefs offense. I don't think you've answered any questions about what you're ultimately going to be this season last week, and I think this is going to be a tough test because I don't expect that kind of the key philosophy that the Chargers have had for Mahomes. I don't know that they have solved that yet. And really, the loss of Tyreek Hill wasn't going to matter over the balance of the season to take the Chiefs offense from top 2 to top 10. Like that wasn't going to move the needle that much. It just wasn't. Everyone has said this. But in games like this, where the margins are super narrow, this is when you could see it, right? In games against the Chargers, the Bills in the regular season, in your playoff run, that is when it could manifest. And so I am very intrigued to see how this works. I don't think the Chargers need to do any kind of major pivot defensively. And actually, if you really want to kind of break down what we saw in that Chargers-Raiders game, I thought the Chargers defense was very, very, very good in that game. The pass rush duo, as advertised. Those guys are healthy. They were a little longer in the tooth, but they were healthy and they were scary. Violent.
Yeah, for sure. That signing has worked out. And you brought up a good point when you mentioned playoffs. Like the odds that these teams may end up playing each other in the playoffs. You wonder if they don't show all the razzmatazz. They leave some stuff in the playbook.
Well, yeah, they got to play again later in the season too.
Yeah, you not only play, but like you assume you may play this team 2 more times at some point. And this is, and another reason I do want to stay away from this is like, it's the classic, quandary. It's like, hey, this team looked really good, but they played a shitty team. Doesn't mean they're not as good as we saw. It was one of those cases where, if they kept their foot on the gas pedal, maybe they score 60. It's
the Chiefs last week?
Yeah, it's like it's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible.
Other than everybody's healthy and the offensive line is sick, and the pieces are all kind of greased. The wheels are greased. Like that's all you can take away from that game. I still think though that the Chargers defense, the run defense, that they exceeded the Mendoza line. They were solid in that game against the Raiders. The pass rush was against the awful offensive line, but they won their 1v1s. The pass defense secondary was absolutely solid, even in the absence of J.C. Jackson. Devontae Adams did everything in his power to try to break that game, and he couldn't. I think defensively, the Chargers are going to match up well against the Chiefs, and they're going to give them what for in this game. This is not going to be a boat race for the Chiefs offensively, as far as I can tell you. The flip side of the coin here with the Chargers, Lombardi learned nothing in the offseason. His decision-making, his scheming, his sequencing, garbage for the Chargers offensively last week. Like, Justin Herbert continues to succeed in spite of what everyone around him is helping him in terms of telling him what to run on a given play. They still struggled in short yardage, which is crazy, considering their philosophy is we're just stick to our aggressive nature. And the running game was utterly stuck in mud. And I want to give a little bit of the credit of that to Patrick Graham and the Raiders defense, because those guys played a lot better than we expected. But still,
in that game, both run defenses played well, but also I do want to blame the Raiders pass blocking, or excuse me, the run blocking wasn't good.
No,
and some of their sequencing sucked too. It was kind of a bad game to watch at times.
Yeah, it was a slow game. It was uneven. It wasn't there was no urgency. And I think realistically, that sets up for a very, very solid underplay here. I think 54, 54 and a half, 53 and a half now at some of the market makers.
Yeah.
No way. This should be a 51 total. The division familiarity is a real thing. I know that it doesn't feel great to go make an under bet when you have 2 of the best 3 quarterbacks in the game on the field at the same time. But with the short week, with the early in the season, and with the way that the Chargers defense looks to have been upgraded, I don't think this is going to be any kind of a shootout. Chargers may ultimately win. They definitely are live to cover, in my opinion. But I don't have huge conviction in that, and I don't have a very strong position in that. I think you probably just might as well take Chargers money line if you're going to back the Chargers, because they're going to go for 4th downs and 2-point conversions. They're going to pull out the stops in general.
Yeah, and Chiefs may be going for 2-point conversions.
Chiefs maybe too. I'm not sure if the idea that there's any brinksmanship in this game, and that this is a kind of a field goal wins it. No, either the Chargers are going to have a solid plan, shut down the Chiefs offense, and win a comfortable game, or it'll go the other way around. And it looks like the Ravens game for them last year, where they're just not ready. But either way, under for me is a play. I think this is pretty solid. One of my favorite totals of the week. And we may laugh about this at halftime tomorrow if Mahomes has 4 touchdowns in the first half. So we'll see. But I think the Chargers defense has to be at least considered for an upgrade based on the way that Mac looked and fit with that team. And if JC Jackson plays, sure. That's crazy. That's gravy. He's questionable right now. He may ultimately suit up. But I don't think they absolutely need him because you don't have a Devontae Adams on the field for the Chiefs. You have a bunch of guys that you can match up well against with your plan A. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a chess match. And I think 54.5 is 3.5 points too high.
Yeah. So I'm fine with the total. I think it's fine just because they are going to be scoring in 6s rather than 3s, maybe 8s. I'm fine. Somebody pointed out the last 2 matchups, the first half was super low scoring, maybe an under first half. My call is that the Chiefs' leading rusher will be the guy under center because somebody just pointed out CEH is not the guy. Not the guy. He's better in pace. He's better.
Speaking of scoring 6 and not 3, who's kicking the ball for the Chiefs?
Butker's out.
The Chiefs might be scoring 6 and not 7.
They might have. It's probably half 8s and half 6s.
Half 8s and half 6s.
Yeah, which comes out if you average it.
Short week, no kicker. What are they going to do?
Well, they did add that Amendola to the practice squad, so I'm not sure. Like they will use someone, probably not their safety.
Rodrigo
Amendola,
Blankenship is available. I saw.
I guess Matt Amendola is going to kick, which is never great having a kicker fill in. But what are you going to do? I'm super excited about this game, and maybe that's part of the bias of me not wanting to bet an under either. I don't
prime time unders.
Yeah,
don't overthink it. All right, let's keep moving. Another great one. I'll tee this guy up here. You were ahead of me on this by about 4 hours. Ravens were 4-point favorites, even though they were playing like dog shit. And the Dolphins were convincingly beating the Patriots. And your postulation that point spread was too high was very, very, very real in my mind. It's 3.5 now. So there's been a little bit of movement towards the Dolphins, but this is actually a buyback at this point because I saw it hit. It got into that 3.5 range, juicy 3.5, or juicy plus 3. Juicy -3, juice or juicy plus 3.5, and it's now kind of at a flatter 3.5. So there's general. I think this is consensus. It's going to stay here, and I think 3.5 is a great play on the Dolphins, and there are matchup advantages galore in this one that all favor Miami as far as I can tell you. I really don't even know what to say if you are still holding on to some glimmer of hope that the Ravens are a top 5 team in the NFL as currently rostered. They lose another tackle in the game against the Jets. Yeah. Lamar Jackson doesn't look especially inclined to run, potentially because he doesn't have that long-term contract because he's
his agent told him not to run.
His agent told him not to run. The rest of the positional players for the Ravens are all minuses outside of Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews now matches up against an elite safety group that is being trotted out there by the Miami Dolphins. Really good secondary.
It's almost a waste of a good secondary.
Yeah, that's a good point. But they can double up easy, and I want to see Javon Holland all the live long day on Mark Andrews. Works for me. I think this Miami defense is set up well to really force the Ravens to find answers. And then on the other side of the matchup, I think the Miami offense has speed in spades. They have many different ways they can hurt you with speed. Doesn't matter if Tua can't throw a beautiful ball 50 yards down the field. They have excellent skill position players, and that has been
like Tua will have a 50-yard touchdown pass that travels like 6 yards in the air.
Yeah. You know why you feel like
Tyreek
that?
Special.
You know why you feel like that is because you saw it twice last year with the Cincinnati Bengals against this team. And it literally Tyreek Hill, you want to go look at some wows, go look at Tyreek Hill's game log performances against this Ravens squad. The Ravens are a good team. They're fundamentally sound. They have good players, but speed kills these guys. And I think this is set up extremely well for for the Dolphins to be live in this game. I'm not like buying Dolphins stock and saying this is a team that's going to be in the mix for a playoff spot or an AFC East crown, but boy, oh boy, with the Bills on deck next week, wouldn't it be great if the Dolphins can put up a convincing win here in Baltimore and kind of really force the market to recognize them, because you might get a decent price to buy it on the Bills. But either way, is there something about this matchup that I am not seeing? And I guess in general, like you give Mike McDaniel like an A+ for his debut, right? Considering.
I think so. And a big part of it was I give the front office an A+. They said, all right, we're going to figure out if we have something in this quarterback by putting all the pieces we need around him and still having, the bones and the pieces to have a really good defense, especially in the secondary. I love the secondary. And yeah, that it looks like a good investment so far right now. And again, it's overreaction week. Let's calm down. It was 1 week, but it looks like a team that can compete with the big boys come playoff time if they continue to gel, and this offense could be scary. Just when you have a Tyreek Hill, again, we've said that everyone remembers the bombs, but he would do these things where he'd catch, a 10-yard out and just a guy would take the wrong angle on him because that's the right angle with 99% of receivers, and he'd be gone. And him with the ball in his hands is just scary. And you have other receivers now. He's a part of a very good receiving core. And if Tua doesn't stink, if he can just play middle of the pack, Kirk Cousins ball, boy, it's actually a fun offense. I have some money line in pocket. I think they're very live to win this. The secondary is a problem with another secondary injury. Marcus Peters maybe, but it's still up in the air. And if he's back, maybe not 100%. Same thing, Ronnie Stanley practiced. That's up in the air. If you're down to a third string left tackle, that's also a big problem. And then the rookie, when he played, not great. Kyle Hamilton, it's tough. It's super tough being a secondary piece early in your career in the league against anybody, even a bad team. So the secondary is a big issue against what I said was a pretty good pass offense, and I'm excited to see continue to evolve. And yes, for that reason, Dolphins plus 3.5, Dolphins plus 4, and some Dolphins plus 165, I think is what I got. So I don't play a ton of money lines, but this is one I really liked adding a little on.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the Mike McDaniel's bag of tricks fits well against the Ravens' defensive scheme as well. As long as they just sort of play the hits, I think this is a good game for.
Yeah, they played what I think is still a tough ass defense last week.
And oh, by the way,
this is a step down to me.
Last year, the Dolphins on Monday Night Football utterly punked the at the time 1 seed Ravens with a healthy Lamar Jackson. Punked them. Defensive scheme was like square peg, square hole, boom. Like go beat us another way. We dare you. And they could not do it. And I think the fact that you have the same D coordinator there that was there last year, continuity at the D coordinator, even though Flores is gone, he's going to pull that game plan out and they're going to go right back to the well and play the hits. And I think at the end of the day, in a new, against an average team, I don't have a ton of separation between the Dolphins and the Ravens. I'm not giving the Ravens 3.5 points for home field advantage, I'll tell you that much. And I think realistically, this should be about a 2-point spread. So Dolphins plus 3.5, one of my favorite plays of the week. And I think I sprinkle a little money line as well, just because I think the matchup advantages are that tilted in favor of the boys in teal.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. This should be a good one.
Total a little low for the team total for the Dolphins.
Total's probably okay. I don't see it ever being this. Like we said, Tyreek Hill's great.
I don't need more action on this game, but I was just curious.
It's not just going to become they're not just going to become the Chiefs. I'm trying to think of a good analog. Maybe it'll come to me throughout the episode, but everyone's kind of good. There's a lot of nice pieces. I don't know, and it's just classic. Like even with the Patriots going down early, that defense looked good. Honestly, the Patriots defense did look good at times. Like this is an easier test in my mind, especially in the secondary. So go Fins, go Finkel, lace us out, and we're on to Cleveland, which is one we don't have a lot to say about. Other than in our preview, we did kind of say if the Browns want to go to the playoffs, They need to be in a very good position when Deshaun Watson returns. They got to win all their easy games, and they got to win probably all their coin flips. They won a coin flip last week. They need to win this easy game. They can't overlook the Jets here. I don't know how squirrely the Jets actually can be. This is a tough defense. This is a tall task for them, and the Jets' offensive line had some issues last week. Going up against Garrett isn't going to help. Numbers probably right. I'm not super enamored with Cooper. Did he miss practice today?
Everybody missed practice.
Everybody missed practice
did,
today.
Yeah. I wasn't really
a lot of question marks around this one.
I don't care about this game.
I really it was Jack Conklin. Maybe close to being back at right tackle. I didn't follow up on that today. Wilson still a bit away. Flacco playing again. Brissett. So Brissett was the guy who didn't give the game away. He wasn't great.
Boy, was he not great.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything so penal that he would just give the game away, which is what we worried about this. So this is probably, God, you know what this is? This is Jets or pass. And boy, that sounds like we're moving on to Detroit.
Flacco just
So and the problem with that too was
he should have retired a couple years ago. What is he doing?
What do you think of the pass rush for Baltimore compared to Cleveland?
It's not even in the same discussion. 22nd versus 3.
20 pressures last week. And now they face
not good.
Better pass rush. So
I honestly the funny part is the obvious answer is you should be starting Mike White, but they're afraid to because they don't want Mike White to gain control of the locker room and from players like to play with him kind of, because then you're screwed bringing Wilson in. If Wilson's no good, but the guy's like White, then you're screwed. So this is just a hot
Jets are in a spot of bother.
Hot mess. Funny move in this
Super
market. We're out to 6.5. You can go and they're taking $15,000 bets at Chris right now. You can go take 6.5 points with the Jets for $15,000, or you can go lay $15,000 with Jacoby Brissett. Pass, easy pass. The total has been bet down from 43, which was low, to 39.5, which is LOL. But at the same time, cannot play an under in this one because the chances that there's defensive scores or weird shit is very real. So
Jets team total under first half, under 7.5, something
easy
like that.
skip.
If you want to get squirrely, Washington, Detroit played a little bit on this on Sunday on the openers pod. We joked that we're not going to get fucked over by weather because the odds of that happening in Detroit Stadium were slim to nil. It's moved up a bit. I got a 46.5. Bounced up a little. It's taken some buyback. I believe 40 was it topping out at 49. Then it caught some buyback, which I don't disagree with that. That's a decent sized move, and 49 is a bit key. What do we think of the Swift injury? That's the biggest thing for me because he was kind of good at times. And again, it was in garbage time a little here and there, but
this actually kissed 50.
Oh, really? I missed that part.
And back down to 48.5, which is meaningful buyback. I think that is mostly on Swift. Swift matters for them because they have relatively limited options in the passing game. But really, I think an overplay here is just you have 2 competent quarterbacks versus 2 defenses who have significant issues. I will say that the Commanders' defense at least did possess a pretty frisky pass rush against the Jaguars. That was maybe the bright spot for the Commanders defensively, but now they go up against a much, much more stout offensive line for the Lions. And so I think Goff will have time to operate this offense. And if Swift is available, then they're going to get theirs in this one. They're going to get 24 points here. And then it's a matter of Commanders answering, which I think the way that Wentz played, you have to consider realistic that they will answer. I don't have a strong read on where Wentz ends this season from an EPA per play standpoint. But as of now, he's way the hell up there. And he is way the hell up there, even though he had 2 interceptions that were seemingly backbreaking in the second half of that game against the Jaguars.
He winced. He winced
and then he unwinced for
a little.
2 great drives by him.
Reverse Wentz.
Yeah, you reverse Wentz there. So I don't know. Maybe there's some there. There's definitely some wide receivers there. And there's definitely no way that the Lions secondary is covering those wide receivers. You mentioned defensive rookie of the year off the top. My only liability there heading into the season was on Aiden Hutchinson.
Same.
Did not love what we saw from him. Now, again, he's going up against the top 3 offensive line.
The best team in the NFC. And I will say, the Washington offensive line was not good in pass protection. If Aiden can take a step forward, it would be this week. And like you said, on the other side, a big part of my handicap and what I like this over was, and again, before the Swift injury, was the Lions offense will operate. They have a very good offensive line. Goff will have time. They'll be fine. And if they're leading, they don't seem to be, because they weren't much last year, they don't seem to be super inclined to slow it down. And if they're behind, it doesn't matter how far behind. They play like they're driving for the game-winning touchdown every drive, no matter what. For some reason, they're hard triers, and I think they will get theirs. And Wentz, again, serviceable. The secondary for the Lions can definitely be beat. We saw that last week by a much better team with better skill position players, but they got Dodson involved. Gibson looked good. I didn't follow up on Jonathan Allen. He had an MRI Monday. It seems like it was just a precautionary. He's fine. Otherwise, I think both offenses will operate at a commensurate level, and we end up in the 50s here.
Yeah, this is a beautiful. There are plenty of plays that we'll make this year that are contingent on game state. This one feels resilient to game state. A competitive game, these guys are going back and forth. Either of these teams gets a lead, the other team is coming back. I really don't think that this is one-way traffic, put the game away, put the kids to bed type of a situation at all. And I don't have a real strong feeling about the side. I think Lions being favored is probably wrong, but
I can't possibly take money and bet the Lions as a favorite. At home, these two teams being equal on a neutral field feels about a point off, but I'm not comfortable taking a side here. And then the Commandos tease again. A couple people have brought that up, teasing the Commanders. Total's a little high, but I'll probably have them in my teaser round robins. How do the Lions win by 8 or more? I guess it would be just.
I mean, Wentz does it to you, I guess.
Wentz takes a step back, throws a couple errant passes that go the other way, or just it could be a little sketchy at times for him if he, it was just an aberration this one week of playing well at times. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's healthy and he can play at a half decent level, and then the Commanders are probably live to take a look at a wild card spot late in the season.
Be cool.
They had a schedule that probably would allow that.
I will say this though. I will say this about the Lions. Like the offense, it took a little while for them to kind of find their groove, but they made what is a very talented defense for the Eagles look silly in the second half at times. Now the Eagles were playing prevent. They had a healthy lead, so you can put a little grain of salt on that, sure, but it's at least a unit that has some cohesion. They played a lot together in the preseason. Everybody's pretty much healthy, so.
Wentz throwing left-handed. That's how they lose the game by 8 or more.
Yeah.
Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Unless they turn into defensive touchdowns, I'll take them anyway. I can get them.
Yeah. Let's flip the script and talk about the team that lost to the Commanders in the Jacksonville Jaguars. Weird, tough game to come away with real takeaways, except for the Jags defense was overmatched against Carson Wentz.
Yeah. The rookie made a couple flash plays. That was cool, but other than that
defense,
they struggle. I should go look what that was on Commanders. It shouldn't come up with anything else. They haven't been the Commanders for very long. There you go. What do you think the third down percentage was for the Commanders?
I'm gonna go.
I don't know the answer to this. I'm pulling it up right now. It felt
65%. It felt like. I didn't see a lot of punts. They didn't try a field goal either, did they?
70% on third down.
70, yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
That's the way it felt. That's what it felt. And you know what? The Jags were 3 of 12. That's how you lose by 6 to a team that's the middle of the pack team. And
they were up by 8.
I didn't watch a ton of this game.
Yeah, it was a weird one. The major takeaway was the Jaguars' defense is not good. My major takeaway for the Colts game is that 2020 score is extremely misleading. realistically, that probably should have been the 30-20-ish game. And I think
they had
general,
like 500 yards of offense.
What does that come to? Yards
like
per
32?
32. Yeah. So that should have been a lopsided win for the Colts, and yet it was 2020. Kind of some just general brain dead shit going on in Indy, as always.
Good point by Scott Newman. Yeah, some questionable red zone calls, some questionable decisions early in the season. We'll give them a little leverage, but here's a game. These are two guys that coach together at Philly. A lot of so you have familiarity because it's a divisional game, but also a couple of guys who coached together during that run up at Philly, and they're both, lauded for what they were able to do with some
Philly special reunion. I like that.
Some special quarterbacks. Now they
Jaguars also going
young one
to
and
Philly. Jaguars go to Philly next week, I think.
Sounds right.
That's funny. Just Dougie P doing the good old reunion. Oh no, Jaguars.
No, they go to
Chargers.
They go to Chargers, then Philly. That's a tough stretch.
Not great. Not looking good. The Chargers don't get this win where they're dogs by 4.5. It's going to be a long season for these guys, especially considering how much they have allocated to players against the cap. Oh my God, this Jags team is like maybe one that you tell your kids about if they can't put together some wins here. I thought the offense looked fine at times. Trevor Lawrence did young quarterback shit. He's going to keep doing that probably. I thought there were some pretty obvious things about the Colts offense to like, especially the Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman Jr. experiences. This total got hammered under. We lost all that CLV from Sunday on the basis of, I'm assuming, the Michael Pittman Jr. injury news, which is annoying, but so be it.
Is he the best player on the field besides Jonathan Taylor on the entire field in this?
He is.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. So if you told me the Texans put up 20, Matt Ryan went for 352, Pittman had 121, Jonathan Taylor ran total yards ran for 161. He told me like how many points did the Colts have? I would have guessed like 35 or more. It was a very misleading box score. And again, it was finishing. The team stats are gonna show you what was the they only got sacked twice. They took a lot of penalties, 7 for 89. They had 2 turnovers to only 1 for the Texans. And the red zone, they were 2 of 5. That's how you tie a shitty team like this. I think they take a big step forward. But yeah, I'm not betting a road favorite in division. I still have some faith in the Jaguars to do some things. And I still like this over. I think Pittman,
same.
I didn't see him get hurt. Unless he really fucked his quad up in practice, I think he's going to play. It's early in the season. If it hurts at all, sit him out. He's fine. He knows the plays. Let's go, Colts. Let's ride.
Colts country.
So yeah, we bet 45.5. It went up to like 48. You can get a 45.5 too now because it's right back where it started. Yeah. And if you believe Pittman's fine, that is the play, I believe.
Yes, I agree. Over and Jags or pass here. If you're in some pick contest and you need to take a side, I'm taking Jags, but not staking it. Let's keep moving to a game I did stake.
How you feeling about that? I staked this yesterday. You talked about it. We talked a little bit on the side, and then I looked, and I really did start to like. I started to like Tampa Bay to maybe, again, just like the Colts, like, hey, if they finish some drives, they actually have some nice things going on offense, and then they really didn't have to do much in the second half. Yeah. I started to like Tampa Bay as a road favorite, and then the injury report came out. Looked like a goddamn CVS receipt. Honestly, New Orleans has a bunch of injury concerns as well.
Yeah, the New Orleans injuries went a little more quietly reported, but they weren't good either.
Yeah, this is a game with like 70 injuries for some reason. I wish I'd take no part of it. I mean, explain your process for getting on Bucks here.
Okay, let me address the injury part first, because that is now apparently
overtime now.
We are going well.
If we list all I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's so many.
We were joking yesterday, like, why in the hell are the Saints steaming? Somebody's going to give us a 2.5 on the Bucks. Okay, fine, I'll take it. And lo and behold, it was because there are a lot of injuries, particularly at the wide receiver position for the Buccaneers. Now, we knew about a lot of these. We knew Mike Evans wasn't 100%. We knew Mike Evans wasn't 100%. We knew that Russell Gage wasn't 100%. If you thought Chris Godwin was playing after seeing him on Sunday Night Football, I got a plot of land out in the California desert to tell you. It was very clear that this was going to be a limited offensive unit, but I still 100% expect Mike Evans to play, and I expect Julio Jones to play. And honestly, the pop that Julio Jones put on display in that Dallas game, that's the kind of thing you have to wake the hell up and pay attention to. Like, he looked live.
They used him as a deep threat. I didn't see that coming, and it worked.
Good. He looked good in that game, which means that if Marshawn Lattimore does his thing and he races Mike Evans off the face of the earth, and Mike Evans is largely a decoy out there anyway, no big deal. Julio Jones, I would expect to step into a very decent role here, assuming he's healthy. And similarly, I think that precautionary hold on Fournette. I think Fournette he's in prime form, but even more than that, if you're not paying attention to what the Buccaneers are right now, then I will tell you, the Buccaneers are a very different team than we saw the last 2 years. They are right now, they are a power run offense, and they are one of the most effective defensive units, and healthy, by the way, defensive units in football. Like, that defense is sick. The Cowboys offense was awful. Yes. The Bucs were a huge part of that equation. And they are going to do exactly the same thing to a beaten up Saints team. Saints have issues at the offensive line. The Saints don't have a healthy Kamara. The Saints wide receiver room also dealing with some question marks. Jameis Winston dealing with the backiotomy.
Not only Kamara, but the backup as well. They signed another running back to the practice squad.
They signed Latavius Murray. Yeah, it is a mash unit in New Orleans. And the way I look at this matchup, the Buccaneers can hold these guys to single digits just like they did Dallas. They absolutely can. That's how good these guys are. And then on the flip side, assuming you have a turnover-free performance from this Buccaneers offense, they're covering that 2.5 in my mind. It's gonna, they only need a couple of big plays. They showed an ability to milk the clock with the power run in the second half. That was just piece de resistance, just an absolute masterpiece. And I would expect much of the same in this contest here. I think 2.5 is cheap. And I think one of the kind of subplots to follow early in the season, number one, Bucs are very much trying to keep their players load managed. And number two, Todd Bowles is playing games with the injury status of these guys.
Yeah, no, and producer Dan points out Julio Jones hasn't practiced during the regular season since like 14. Who is that Giants receiver who he just sit out all week and then play every Sunday? Not Cruz. It was back in that era. I remember that. It was one of those guys where it's just like, oh, is he playing? He does.
Mario Manningham.
Guys, like, get over it. But yeah, I think Julio plays. I think this will be just fine. And somebody brought up that they had Saints plus 3.5 from the summer. Again, if you're, we're not here to tell you what to bet. We're here to tell you what we bet and try to make some cases for it. If you still like it, it's a better number than you can get right now. But the middle, again, this middle hits about 10% of the time. Yeah, because it lands on 3 about 18% of the time. We'll slightly skew that to the favorites, a 10-11% shot at a 20-1. You're getting about double your EV. I would shoot for a middle if you could get a normally priced 2.5. It's a 20-1 shot on a 3. That'd be super fun, and it'll be a fun story next week if it does.
Or take the Saints team total under, and then for all you know, you get a win anyway when the Buccaneers hit both. Yeah.
You end up with like a 19-16 game or something along those lines.
Or 3-0. Their late season game last year had a bizarre score. Wasn't it like 9-0 Saints or something? Yeah, this was a weird matchup. Weird in general. The Buccaneers offense, for what's worth, though, has a long way to go to be anywhere close to the level we saw from them the last 2 seasons. So don't expect that anytime soon. Offensive line, wide receiver.
And
they're real.
I think you're right. I think they're just going a different direction.
Yeah, exactly.
And once the receivers get healthy, maybe they integrate more of like, all right, now we're a bit of a combo.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. They're doing it a different way.
Running team.
They're doing it a different way. And that's fine. I think Brady's
just smart. Use what you have. All these receivers
keep that shoulder on ice, buddy. Well, he's 45 years old here. All right, let's keep moving. Tampa Bay.
Carolina, New York was not one I had a ton to say about. I think you were kind of in the same boat. Thibodeau might be back. I didn't follow up on that. Icky, that's who it was. Icky got mauled last week. Again, he's young. Easier task this week. Saquon is probably the story. Like, he was great. He's really back in form. Not only just, I mean, it was good run blocking, but I mean, he broke tackles too. He had a lot of yards after contact. He just legit might be a really good running back again if they're going to use him the right way. Maybe they just
might be your comeback player of the year.
He's probably, he's your favorite for sure. And then the only other note I had on here was
till he gets hurt.
Baker wasn't great, but this is an easier defense to face. Like, maybe you see Baker play a little bit. You should see Baker play a little better this week. Like, this is it's still on the road, but it is a much easier task for him as well. And Panthers are super live. Panthers are a gross teaser leg. It is a road teaser, but I don't see. Yeah, teaser away. This is a teaser leg that's for sure going to end up in a couple of mine.
Yeah, I think I'm going to end up with Panthers in the contests because I don't have 5 sides I like this week.
It's been tough.
And I think, I mean, this is Panthers or pass. But again, fuck Baker Mayfield. So I'm not going to actually bet the Panthers much this season, even when there's a plus EV bet to be made, like when they're road dogs against the Giants. Giants in general, by the way, you have any closing thoughts on them going for it for the touchdown there? Beautiful play design.
Boy, and and that's the biggest part of it. Like, the decision to go for it, whatever. I'm fine either. If you want to play for overtime, I think that would have been dumb considering you were probably the worser of the teams. So I like just going for it. Not overtime is not a 50-50 proposition at that point. And so I did like that, but more importantly, I love the play call. Like, they knew, like, hey, what's working? Well, let's do that. Like, what can we do that will work here?
Love when you have awareness by the coach. Yeah. And also, what else I love?
And he won the goddamn locker room right away.
You know what else I loved about? Oh yeah, which is,
you have it for the year now.
What a way to set the tone. The anti Nathaniel Hackett, if you will. The other thing I liked about it is they felt like it kind of caught them by surprise. Like, they didn't dick around deciding. Like, they're like, we get this touchdown, we're going for it. We got the play. The guys already know what the play is. Like, it was crisp, which I love. Like, because when you dink around, give the other team time to prepare, your success rate drops in my mind. All that said, pass on this game. Talk about New England.
Yeah,
on the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be a tough watch. It's going to be a tough hang. We got a Steelers 2.5-point favorites. The total 40.5. Are those the market making numbers? I guess it's 2 and 40.
Right now, bookmaker, it is a flat 40 and 2 to the Patriots.
Yeah. So I laid 2.5. I sold out to 2.5 here. I sold out to 2.5 with the Patriots. I'm riding with Bill Belichick to bounce back here. There's a very straightforward reason why, and it is that the Steelers played 44 minutes of football and 100 fucking snaps. Not 100, but a lot of snaps against the Bengals in week 1. That has a tendency to be fatigue-inducing, to a very high degree. Funny enough, the Patriots and the Bucks, 2 teams, Patriots, Bucks, and Colts are 3 teams, the only 3 teams that are on back-to-back roadies week 2. That used to be the kiss of death. I've bet 2 of those teams, so I am clearly off my, my old self. We're going head-to-head. But the Patriots, I think, are coming in a little fresher, even though they obviously went down and played in the heat of Miami. And I think in general, the Steelers defense without TJ Watt, no real havoc play potential. You could put 2 hats on Cam Hayward. You can throw away from Minka Fitzpatrick, and you can pick on some of the weak spots in this defense. And I think in general, the Patriots may even tack back into a little bit more of who they were from an offensive identity standpoint last year, because guess what? That will work against this Steelers team, considering the state of their defensive locker room. On the other side of the ball, the Patriots defense should hold the Steelers to a very pathetic total in this game. The Mitch Trubisky experience, not doing it for me. This offensive line did not get exposed by the Bengals last week, but I think the Patriots are going to be able to find ways to create unique pressure, really, really make it a miserable day for Mitch and company. And I think the Patriots can win this one by more than a field goal. So lay the 2.5. What are your thoughts?
I tease Pittsburgh.
Why does it say
I don't
Steelers
think either team gets to 20.
This is Patriots minus 2.
My median outcome is I feel like the Patriots win by 3 an awful lot, and both of those scores are in the teens an awful lot. I played the under 40.5. I found a 40.5 this afternoon or yesterday. I don't know. My days are running together. I'm still running on fumes coming off Vegas for 4 days, but I like this under quite a bit. The Steelers only scored 13 in regulation with their offense, and they had a bunch of extra drives to do it. That's maybe not super that's maybe not selling the teaser as well, but I do like this under a lot more. And the Patriots offense isn't good. That was again, TJ Watt is a big issue, but they still have, you do have to put 2 hats on Hayward and hope everything else works out. You do have to avoid Minka. It's still a tough defense with an injured quarterback who hasn't done much to impress me. A very rough receiver room, one of maybe worse than Baltimore's. I think we might be at that point. Like
Hunter Henry.
I
guess
he's
like
a
Mark
tight
Andrews.
end. Again, it's just like Mark Andrews. So it's a goofy spot.
Fair comp.
I like this under. I hate biting the bullet and taking an under that's under 42. These are every touchdown stings so badly. But 17-13 kind of game. Feel like that happens an awful lot, and I'm looking for a game where I look up and holy shit, it's the second quarter already, because a lot of short passes, a lot of running. We have an injured running back for Pittsburgh. We'll see how effective he is. And 2 quarterbacks who I do not believe in. So we will go with an under and a Steelers teaser. I'll tell you the other half of that teaser that I actually did play. My round robin stuff, I'm waiting, but I have one that I like quite a bit. The Steelers are half of it. And then real quick, ad read. What? Yeah, another sponsor. People want to hang out with us. God damn it, Andy. You're just going to close tabs so you can't see your ad read. I didn't memorize this. Now I'm just stalling for time. So they're basically getting
ads. Jump 15 seconds ahead if you don't want to hear this ad, but don't, because you should support our podcast.
Yeah, turds. God, that's a whole different one. Yeah, I don't even know where I put. Here we go. No house advantage. It is DFS. Right off the bat, if you ask a question, is DFS legal in your state? If you can play DraftKings, you can play this. So
no house
playing pick'em contests
like
versus
that.
Other people, a shot at winning $250K or more. Download the app, choose a contest, select your player props, earn points for correct picks. Or you can do the player props, mix and match them up to 5 different ones, 20x your money. They have NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, MMA, and NASCAR if you like race cars. And I do like race cars. Sign up now with promo code BETSPURTS at nohouseadvantage.com or download the app on your mobile telephone.
I feel like they should have gone with no rake. Isn't that a little snappier?
Nohouseadvantage.com. And you can get a first deposit match, $25. Check it out. I'm going to play with it this weekend. I'm going to play with a bunch of DFS because I couldn't last weekend. I was in Nevada. I tried to put in an entry and a couple different things. Couldn't do any of it. So we will. All right. We'll back to the regularly scheduled program. The second half of this schedule starts with a Falcons team that did we fall in love with this team a little? The offense at least.
I'm sure you could come up with a fun analogy relating to high school girlfriends, but they tried to break my heart a couple of different times in the end of that game against the Saints.
Oh yeah, you had them. That was a sharp side. That was a hot side, and it got a little sketchy. But the Falcons offense feels like they're going to do just enough.
Oh yeah, league average at worst.
They're going to do just enough to cover in games where there's not a defense that's just going to blow their ass up. And then you hope the timing and the scheduling works out where they cover a couple of games and then they run up against a couple of brick walls, because there's going to be some defensive matchups that are going to absolutely stymie what they do, and they're going to look like shit again. It's going to be a yo-yo. They're going to be bet on. They're going to be bet against. I don't have a strong take because I struggled to find what I believe about this Rams defense right now. What do you think about the 10.5 at SoFi? Rams with a bunch of extra rest as well.
I think that's probably too many points. I think it should be 9.5, but I don't really want to get involved with the side here. I think you can basically make the same play by taking the over, because last week the Saints did not press their advantage. They did not use the house advantage against their offensive matchup against the Falcons defense. The Falcons also showed their hand a little bit about who they want to be defensively, which is a blitz-heavy team. In fact, a team that could really only create pressure via blitz. Right?
Yeah.
Well, what did we see with the Rams last week? We saw a Rams team that struggled mightily in pass pro. However, they were up against future Hall of Famer Von Miller and other very, very solid front seven. I think up against a Falcons team that can really only generate pressure via blitz, and considering Matt Stafford's lifetime of superlative play against the blitz, this should be opportunity for the Rams to flex a little, to get some scores. And at that point, the cover becomes a matter of, are the Falcons scoring those garbage time points or not? But either way, the total has been bet down from 48 to 46.5. It has crossed the key of 7.
I know the Rams team total has been staring me in the face.
Do not agree that this should have crossed 47. I think the fair is 48.5, and I would play 46.5 and be very, very content with my position on this game and hope that the Falcons just get to 17. 20 is probably more realistic, though.
If I could find a Rams under 30 for a team total, that's one that's on the short list. I think this offense is fine. And I think not only is it fine, but I think and it's only one game. Like they're smart enough coach, a savvy veteran quarterback, a lot of veterans, a lot of experienced players who've experienced a bunch of success. But boy, after what they did last week on offense, doesn't feel like they just kind of want to let it fly and stunt on these hoes a little. Like I wouldn't let up. I'd want to exercise those demons quickly. Say, all right, we're capable. We're a good offense. That was a tough test right at the beginning of the season. Let's drop 40 on their ass, and maybe you don't need the play action because you're going to be facing some blitzers. But again, if you're facing blitzers, you have one-on-ones on the outside. They have the receivers to beat that. So a 28.5, 29.5 team total is something I'm interested in here for sure. And I agree with
30 to 20 kind of final. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm there. 28, 20, 30, 20.
31, 17, something.
31, 7. Oh, yeah. Oh, now we're talking. 31, 17 actually sounds very close. 34, 17. Rams in general, second home game.
31, 17 is a middle on this total of the way it's moved around.
Ooh. Yeah, I like over 46.5 in this game. Let's keep moving to another over I played at another very low total, 41.5 now. I thought that this opener of 43 looked low. I didn't bet it because I was waiting for limits to go up. And by the way, limits on totals have been like super slow this week. Is it
stuck?
What are we waiting up for here? They saw for a flash a couple places. We're like, oh, we'll take 5. Nah, 3. So I don't know what the deal is, but here we are. I like this over 41.5. The Seahawks taught you something important on Monday Night Football, and that thing that they taught you was Geno Smith can complete the easy stuff.
Yeah,
and that they are going to
even the easy stuff. It's like, all right, he's throwing it to the right shoulder. He's throwing it right out he wasn't throwing.
He's using the tight end. Yeah,
but he was throwing spots where it wasn't.
Penny's live. Penny's live. He's got some legs.
You'll see quarterbacks throw like, hey, that was an easy pass, but the linebacker got his goddamn hands on it for some reason because he threw it to the wrong side of the body for that route. Yeah. Like he was playing well enough.
Yeah. Yeah. The I would say that in general, this is a different offense. Shane Waldron is running a different offense this year in the absence of Russell Wilson. The pass frequency, the sequencing, everything is different. Now that may not last all season. Pete Carroll may ultimately get his grubby hands on it at some point, but for now at least, this is an overish type of offense compared to what the kind of the general market is rating the Seahawks, unit. The flip side of that is the Seahawks defense is bad. They are bad. This is a bottom 5 defense. And even though they had the defensive player of the week,
should have scored more. The Broncos should have scored a bunch more. And I mean, it's Andy. Well, they were right at they were knocking on the door. Yeah, 2 fumbles on the goal line will cause you to score fewer points if you do not recover them. So obvious, but they looked, and they weren't even using their wide receivers.
No.
They were the team that threw the lowest ratio of targets to wide receivers out of 32 teams last year. All anybody could talk about for the whole preseason. All these young receivers, they threw more balls to tight ends and running backs than anybody in the league by ratio. And it wasn't particularly close. They were 36%. The next few teams were like Green Bay, New England, and Baltimore, and they were all around like 45 to 48. Those are teams with horseshit wide receivers or a bunch missing. Like, that makes sense. And they were still, I didn't think that was going to be the game plan. And yet they still moved the ball. Like, if they want to get a little more aggressive on offense, I think and we're not even talking about Denver, but they could have really got aggressive on Seattle, and they didn't. I really hate Nathaniel Hackett at this point in my life. The Seahawks are going to be super susceptible to a better team, and it sucks that we didn't get to evaluate that team because they played in a mud puddle.
Right, which is another reason that this total is depressed.
And honestly, the side.
Yeah, and I think
10.5.
I also got to tell you, man, the Seahawks one of our friends has been beating this drum about the Seahawks offensive line being better than people realize for a while.
They gave up a shitload of pressures.
In the second half, they did. Right. I agree.
And that was, I mean, Chubb's one thing, but yeah, they are going to give up a ton of pressure again this week. They had the right game plan to kind of beat that, but
I honestly like Geno's mobility because if there's
that's what
one
I'm saying,
thing,
the short stuff and the mobility, it worked.
Yeah, because like the one thing about the Niners, like if they have an identity defensively, it's getting pressure but not sacking the quarterback. Like they're masters at that, masterful. Including last week where they somehow only sacked Justin Fields 2 times, even though they felt like they were in his face on 20 fucking plays. Anyway, the Niners offense, I think, matches up well against the Seahawks. Realistically, like, did you see some of the zone runs that the Broncos did over the balance of that game where they were getting 9 yards a clip? Like, I mean, Jeff Wilson Jr., Jeff Gordon Jr., it doesn't matter who you have running the ball for the Niners in this game. They are going to gain yards on the ground with ease. And I think ultimately Niners, like the way that this total doesn't make it is if somehow the Seahawks play the same exact game they played against the Broncos, generate a lead, and just take the air out of the ball somehow. Otherwise, I think this thing is sailing over 41.5. Sailing. No weather to speak of to worry about up there. In general, this looks like a game that's mispriced by the tune of 4.5 points. I would have made this 46.
Any interest in a Niners team total over? Or just scared because we haven't seen the offense really.
Yeah, but it's not going to be that low because it's 9.5.
It's it's at home. The Seahawks
5.5. It's going to be.
And this is so it's not in the traditional Wong teaser zone, but it is in the zone of playing what is this? You play a 7-point teaser on this. 7-point teaser, the proper price you want to get to make it plus EV is minus 130. Yeah. So a 7-point teaser takes this to 2.5. And I might be playing. I don't play those that often because it's hard to find 2 legs usually. If places let you have open, that's fine. And if it is 8.5, let me check that. What Chris has right now.
Circa has 8.
So Chris has 9. It is all over the place. Thanks for pointing that out, though, Hef. So now it's a Wong burger. Let's go. Boy, that round robin is getting big.
I like this one though.
You know what sucks is it's not possible to most places where I want to bet to actually push a button and round robin a bunch of teasers. You do it by hand.
Hand betting. Yeah.
That's the advantage of maybe going to the counter in Vegas. You can tell them to do it, and they would just put it together for you. Sit there on your phone. All right, I like it.
Drive to Iowa. You don't. They
don't have that many counter. Like again, if I want to go bet at a counter, that's like an hour and a half to get to the casino. Maybe you're not. The way my craps are rolling, maybe it's time to push the luck there a little.
Okay. Well, I think Seattle gives up the goods. They give up some points in this one, in my opinion. Let's move on to one we can probably get through pretty quickly here. Bengals playing the Cowboys, two teams that I think would be disappointed with the way Sunday went. No one more so than the Cowboys.
Tough luck. That stinks to see. I hate quarterback injuries. It diminishes the quality of the play of the league overall. And that said, this offense was horrible with him in. Some of the credit definitely goes to Tampa, but boy,
like 90% of it.
Yeah, it's still like they found no way to break that. They were looking rough. So, people argued about how big of a move this was. Some of this was going to just move in general, even with the Bengals losing, because the Cowboys offense wasn't good. That said, it's a lot for a road favorite. Cooper Rush wasn't like Nathan Peterman bad when he's filled in the past. Granted, they have some offensive line issues now, and they don't have all their receivers, but do you have the stomach to get 7 and a hook at home? I don't think Joe Burrow's throwing 5 or turning the ball over that much again. So this is a hard pass game for me.
Yeah. So two
Bengals
thoughts.
Turn up, they might win by a bunch.
Yeah, and they probably are a fair teaser. I like them. The Cowboys, I think the better than making a bet on the Bengals -7.5 in this game is to do what? AFC North. Get it down now.
I forgot we did that. 3 to 1 or better.
3 to 1 or better. That's the buy. Now is the time. And you know what's funny about that? It was 3 to 1 after the games were over Sunday and before we saw the Cowboys game and knew Dak Prescott was going to be playing. The win probability for the Bengals in this game went from coin flip to likely
70,
and it did not move the market at all. So what the hell?
That felt like a nice move. And then I did tease this. This is my AFC North teaser. I teased this with Steelers. Get it down to 1.5. I don't. Okay. I
talk
don't.
To me about.
I think the offense likely bounces back.
I think the adjustment from Dak to Cooper is in the ballpark of what the market is telling us, on top of the actual downgrade of the unit overall. Now that people realize that there's some problems. What I'm curious about, I think Cooper Rush is probably going to do some interesting things. I mean, he's playing with house money. He's trying to get a backup job for life. If he plays well in the next couple of weeks, he'll have it. What were you surprised that they didn't make a move this week? And
no,
because the Jerry Jones saying 4 weeks is he's full of
high.
Shit?
He's high on ether. Okay. Like he's huffing a rag or something.
Okay.
And I think maybe that's part of the reason they didn't make the move, because even if it is, pie in the sky 4 weeks, I think 6 weeks is possible. Okay. So, do you make a move for somebody when it's a fill-in for 6 weeks? That's a tough ask. And
there's guys out there.
It would have to be a trade. It would have to be a trade. The people in the free agent market it's Cam, it's Fitz, and other than that, I would just once you get past that, I would rather have a guy who already knows the offense and Cooper Rush. Honestly, can you name me somebody you'd rather have that have to come in and learn it for 6 weeks? Cam I'd consider, but he's been so banged up over the last few years. And then Fitzpatrick's our age. It's not a lot that you could do in the free agency market right now. The Niners aren't going to come help you, and the Jimmy G asking price is too much for a fill-in. You'd be flipping him. Minshew, that's interesting. I think he's on a team. That'd be a trade. Ben DiNucci. God, if it's Ben DiNucci, that's an issue. But that said, I am teasing the Bengals down. Even with a road favorite, I do not believe we'll see that many bad throws, that many interceptions. That was a tough defense. That was a tough ask, a divisional game. Should be better. And Jamar Chase did everything in his power to pull that offense out of that funk. He's still very good. So Bengals by 6.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there he is.
Okay
Yeah, he's an Eagle. He's an Eagle again. Is that his second stint as an Eagle, or is he still there?
You know what you probably could get a pretty cheap deal for is bringing Andy Dalton back from the.
I'd want to hold on to him.
If you're the Saints, you want to. You have Taysom Hill
backup. Yeah, I would have to. He's a tight end now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Either way, we're on to Denver.
Okay. On to Denver. What was your favorite part of Monday Night Football?
I mean, just tweeting through it, like everything that happened at the end, and then him, and it's like, oh, guess what? He said he wished he had gone for it, and then you find out it's because he didn't get the field goal. It came out like, oh, he said he wished he'd gone for it. Then you find out the whole quote is, well, I wish I'd have gone for it because we missed the field goal, essentially. Like, well, that doesn't count. That's not, that's not penance. That's, hindsight, you asshole. And I will give him some leeway. It is his first game coaching.
What do you think happened?
They just had no fucking plans in place. Like
he froze, right?
Yeah, he froze. They didn't have a plan in place for an end game like that. And the fact that they actually came out and said, like, you gotta, again, I have a buddy, and this was his just deny, lie until you die. Don't let him know. Like, you can't come out and say, yeah, end goal was just kick from the 46 at sea level. Like that was once we got there, we were happy. They had so much time. They had timeouts, and all their passes were short behind the line of scrimmage. Like that, all the plays were so conservative for a team that was losing. They looked like a team that was trying to pick up a couple of first downs to ice the game. The play calling was very puzzling, considering they had those zone. You can run the ball. You have timeouts and all those time on the clock. Like the zone runs and shit that was working. Do anything that was working. Peyton, people are bringing up Manning. Manning trying to call timeout for 3 minutes straight was pretty funny.
Well, it was fucking crazy. Everyone with two brain cells watching that game was like, "This isn't right. What are they doing? Why are you doing this?"
Back to the Cowboys, quick. Bring in Drew Brees. That's pretty
bring in
funny.
Drew Brees and then Sean Payton next week. Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, I get why the Cowboys didn't make a move. Tank away, guys. Clear the decks for Sean Payton and get a good draft pick next year. I get it. But no, the Broncos fuckery was hysterical. Hackett choked, froze, whatever you want to call it.
His case vibes. Good call.
Yes. The last time Nathaniel Hackett called plays was 2018.
Jaguars?
Yep. Yeah. And he has since not really had those roles and responsibilities. He took those on in addition to being the head coach and installing a new offense with a veteran quarterback. And I think ultimately it was way too much responsibility. And he was like standing around like waiting for the head coach to tell him if they were going forward or kicking before deciding on what the play was. And then was like, oh shit, I'm that guy. Oh, I'm the guy that has to decide. And I have to decide the play. Well, McManus said he could make from here. Timeout. Go kick the field goal. Like that's kind of the way it felt, and
everything felt like, nah, this isn't happening.
It did shade a little bit the fact that Russell Wilson didn't really make you feel like he's the guy he was a couple years ago.
No, just that TikTok today.
No,
I'm fully out on the Broncos.
God.
It was rough.
There's more cringe
and again,
out there.
I don't want to relitigate
more cringe.
I don't want to relitigate because people are just bound and determined to argue about the actual odds of the field goal being made. It 10, does 15%. Not matter.
Does not matter.
It was never more. It was never a bigger number than your chance to make that fourth down. And then again, even if you had to kick from there, it's a 58-yarder. Your odds are higher. Like you still had time. But that's not even the worst part. Is the first part of that drive where they squandered all that time. The play
third down play call was a what the fuck. Yeah. And oh, by the way, you trotted out a kicker.
We haven't even talked about the Texans.
You trotted out a kicker when you paid Russell Wilson $240 million. and gave up your entire future war chest of draft picks to get him. So what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing? I thought there were a lot of moments. I thought there were a lot of moments in that game where Wilson looked washed.
I don't remember this guy, but he has a good point. Try throwing it to your wide receivers in the first half.
Why not? Yes, and when you do, throw it better than you threw to that one end zone throw that should have gotten picked by Quadri Diggs. Yeah, I mean, Wilson had a handful of oh God, what was that moments throwing the football. And but he also did some classic Wilson stuff where he's, scrambling around behind the line of scrimmage, extending the play, and his guy, breaks loose and scores a touchdown. So like that's still there, but it's chaotic. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look sustainable. And in general, if he's not going to use his legs, if he's only going to throw, then, the ceiling is all of a sudden a lot lower on this offense for the Broncos.
And it also came down to try not to turn the ball over in the red zone.
Yeah, that's
a whole different game. You're winning by 10 on that drive instead of down.
Yeah.
Texans. That was a gritty tie. I watched almost none of the first half of that. I checked. I kind of, I filled myself in a little. I caught some of it. I don't fully know what to make of this team at all, I guess. I'm kind of there. I don't know if you have strong takes. They have a few pieces, but it's not supposed to be like this. All my notes are on Denver. I don't have any strong takes on the Texans. This number is probably high.
Probably. But the Texans are going to altitude.
It's a tough. I can't bet it. It's a road game at altitude early, and it may be a bit of an aberration. They probably should have given up 40 points, that many yardage. So, but at the same time, the Broncos are bound and determined to not throw to the wide receivers, not run Russell Wilson, and they have a brain dead coach. So I'm on to.
Wait, no, I gotta close the commentary here. There was something about the Texans game that needs to be said. Lovie Smith
is old as shit.
Did you see the end of game? There were 20
in overtime.
There were 26 seconds left.
Yeah.
He runs Rex Burkhead. 40 seconds left. He runs Rex Burkhead into the line of scrimmage for -2 yards on 3rd and 1 at the Indy 47. He then proceeds to punt on 4th and 3 with 26 seconds left. Inexcusable to just say, taking the tie. Good job, guys.
Haven't lost yet.
Taking the tie.
I know that they don't know.
Fuck that.
I'd say very few coaches know what their Vegas win total is, but they have to know generally hey, we're not expected to be a good team. When that is your expectation, you go for that every time. And in fact, every team should go for that every time.
Right. You do the day bowl, which is we're not expected to win. If we do, I'm going to get these guys in the locker room fired the fuck up. And instead he chose to punt on 4th and 3. And honestly, I don't even think you're really risking the loss that much. There's not quite enough time for the Colts to move. And by the way, the Colts
not Blankenship was kicking.
But yeah, Colts kicker had absolutely nothing going for him. As I was watching the replay, I was like, that's how this ended? That? And I was in literally the body language of Smith, good game, guys. I don't know how you get out of bed and fight hard the next time out after that. That was extraordinarily uninspiring performance at the end of that game. And that said, Broncos put their most important defensive piece on IR today. Justin Simmons is on IR. So, and yet this total has ticked down to 45.5. That is too low. It's been bet up from 43 to 46 and then back down for some silly reason. I think now staring at 45 flat, actually you can get -105 to the over. I think that's bet to the over if you're going to play this game. And I think you're counting on the fact that the Texans are going to get some garbage time points, if not just score in general, with the Broncos having some issues figuring out their defense now. But yeah.
And somebody pointed out Justin Simmons. That's a big loss. Gregory played well, but we'll see how he plays without Justin Simmons, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
And Randy Gregory, if anything, he has been less than consistent. So
yeah.
We'll see
Not
how that
so
goes.
much.
But don't want any part of this game. I don't hate your look, though.
Okay.
The Broncos offense should score a lot more than they did. This is another bad defense.
Yeah.
2 weeks in a row. If they don't get to like 24 2 weeks in a row, that's just gonna be hilarious.
Eject everything.
Fire hack
Yeah.
In 2 weeks. Arizona had the worst injury luck of week 1 pre-game. A bunch of stuff popped up. Nothing turned out right. And then it was already kind of a bad matchup. And like I said earlier when I talked about the Chiefs, they enacted a type of offense that just worked because you have Kelsey, the shovel passes. I mean, they're always been a creative offense. Like just everything kind of just worked, and they probably could have scored more. Most of what the Cardinals did was in the fourth quarter in very low win probability territory where you don't want to give them a ton of credit for that. That said, I mean, it was a banged up team. Their best receivers suspended. They had multiple players missing. It's going to be a rough start to the season if this is what they're going to be up against. And they have a road game here against a team that, while they didn't do a lot of things right, is probably better than them right now. And the market certainly thinks so. -4.5, high total. What do you think of this Raiders? I think that the biggest matchup for me is the Raiders defense versus this Cardinals offense. Why isn't this a little lower? I haven't bet this yet, but I would put this around 49.5.
I think it should be 48.5. So I'm even lower than you. We agree. I played this under. This is an under spot.
I might join you then.
Let's assume for a second that Vance Joseph does not pivot hard away from his concepts that he rolled out last week against Pat Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
If he goes blitz heavy here against that offensive line and against Derek Carr, who now may not have his center, Andre James, this could be more effective performance from that Cardinals defense, even though they're like clearly bottom 10, maybe bottom 5. I think there's a potential surprise coming from JJ Watt playing. I think there is potential for, in general, some of these pieces being back. Yeah, I mean, some of the kind of quieter pieces that we're missing are going to be back for this game. Obviously not Hopkins, which helps you on the under as well. A lot of injured pieces for the Arizona Cardinals still on offense. I think this is the easiest under on the board, and I think it's not close. Also, you got I forgot Josh McDaniels is running the molasses offense.
Yeah, it wasn't the slowest offense, but they sure took their time, and the play sequencing lended themselves to a drain the clock kind of offense, and the running wasn't good. It's just the run blocking combined.
Nothing about this spells shootout to me. Nothing.
Yeah, I haven't bet this yet, but I think you've given me the confidence to join in on this one. A lot of we're either going down in flames or we're going to be rich on Monday because we agreed on quite a bit.
Market's not with me on a lot of stuff this week, so we'll see. For now, the side. Did you think this was a fair adjustment? 3.5 getting bet up?
I'd bet the Cardinals.
You
at 4.5, but I'm certainly not going to.
Yeah.
It should be 3. 3.5 was fair.
Yeah, I think so too. That might be a contest play. Oh God. Oh.
Yeah. You're gonna have the What was your other horrible one? Like it was a 1.5 that you had in the
Panthers.
Oh, you're gonna have Panthers and Cardinals in the contest. Have fun with that.
I don't mind betting against the Raiders and the Giants laying points.
Pissed at the Raiders. I liked that over last week a lot. Market didn't go with me, and it didn't get there. It's not like it went against me; it just sat still.
Yeah.
Bears getting a grip of. I played a 10. I'm just gonna say it. I'm disgusted with myself. It's they're not gonna get bailed out by Mother Nature this week. But what about that?
Are you sure about that?
It's it might be. It's not going to be that bad. Like the odds of it being a monsoon and a mud puddle again aren't great. But yeah, there can be weather. It's not looking like it's going to be nice. But 10's a lot for a low total, even with Lazard back. Fuck me, the Green Bay Packers didn't do shit against a sketchy secondary. Like the first play, they should have had a touchdown. That doesn't help the relationship between a rookie and a bitch ass quarterback who gets mad at everybody and just takes mushrooms and dates witches. Like he's one of the greatest to ever do it, but he's kind of finicky, I think, with some of his relationships. He has been with coaches, with other players. Like I don't think he's just never going to throw him the ball again or something silly, but that didn't help. And I mean, just nothing really clicked consistently for that offense. And it's going to be a ton of, I think, touches from both running backs. And a low-scoring game like that. How many points do the Bears have to score to cover the 10? I didn't even bring up his family. Thank you, Steven. Like, good point.
I'm going to say 6.
Yeah. I almost bet this under, too. There's a correlation. If you like correlated parlays, and you
no, I mean, I'm making a joke. I think to cover the 10, they need to score 10. I don't think the Packers
10 or 13 would
well
definitely get it done.
20.
I think.
No. I think the Bears were a fine play. I like the under personally. I think in general, the Packers, the warning signs that I saw about the Packers offense were all real. If all of a sudden Bakhtiari and Jenkins are healthy and playing great, well, I'm going to take a loss. But I still have yet to see what they're actually doing in practice, if anything. And I am buyer beware that they're just going to be able to step in and go toe to toe with the Bears defense that I think you have to upgrade, even though it's tough to make any kind of a grade out of that game. Like the Bears can cover at least, and they can definitely cover as well the Vikings. And a lot of the issues with the Packers last weekend was coverage sacks and guys not getting open and guys dropping balls. I don't think that gets solved in a week. And you're going up against a decent secondary here with the Bears. I mean, they're not good, but they're decent. A lot of young talent. And so I think ultimately this is probably an unwatchable garbage primetime game. But I don't mind that if I have an under 42. So
nice little, I won't say much positive about the Bears during the year, but a nice flash from a 5th round pick out of the MAC, I believe. Dominique Robinson played well in that front. I think he had a sack and a half and half dozen tackles. They have some nice pieces up front. And I think that'll be part of the success they'll have on defense. If they go up against a high-powered offense, it's still going to be a problem. It's not a great team. If they go up against a really good secondary or even just a good rush defense, I liked what we saw from Khalil Herbert. It's not going to turn out well for them. It's still not a good team. But 10 points in a divisional game against an offense that showed us bupkis, even with Lazard back, is a ton. And boy, howdy. I feel gross, but I will have this one. We don't talk about the Monday games, but I did want to mention that. And we did this. There are 2. And if you watch the Sunday show, we did take the Eagles Vikings over. Could not be more giddy for a game. And it's not even as a Vikings fan. Like, I'd love to win my bet, but I think that could be one of the most fun games. I think both secondaries are going to have a hell of a time. And honestly, the Eagles have the better defense, so I think the Eagles win that one. But I want to see just a back and forth offensive game. And then I didn't bet Tennessee Buffalo, just for the record.
I like it, man. Under.
On what? Tennessee Buffalo?
I think primetime unders are a thing, man.
So, and that is the one thing. It's low, but Tennessee team total under feels like
I just like the way.
How are they ever getting to 17?
I just like the way that
through it.
I like the way the Vrabel teams have matched up against Buffalo the last handful of years. They've done. A decent
we
job.
don't have a team total, Drew.
Well, we got to figure out where we want to go here. We could attack a million different angles. I will throw out some options. You ready? Well, actually, let me pull up. Does anyone have team totals up? DraftKings probably, right?
Yeah, I can pull that up. I kind of like Indy over. I think they get
Indy over is solid.
It's a road game, but boy, they had a lot.
Especially because Pittman, especially because we're getting a discount because Pittman.
Yeah,
probably
you're getting
plays,
a
right?
low total because they say Pittman might be a little dinged up. I think he's fine.
All right, let's do that.
Is that our?
What's it gonna be?
Help us out, chat here.
45 divided by 2 plus 4.5.
I'm just gonna pull up the draft.
It's gonna be like 20. It's gonna be a juicy 24.5, like a minus 120 over 24.5. You want to sell it up to 26? Up to 25
Can
and a
you
half?
do that? You can do anything you want in the legal books now.
Yeah. Let's go over 25 and a half on the Colts. So 26 points or better. 24 and a half says Ryan. We'll take 24 and a half. Over 24 and a half for the Indianapolis
All right, the Colts 24 and a half minus 05 at DraftKings right now. That is a look I like. And with that, week 2 in the books. This was a good one. We had a lot of volume.
Yeah. I think I have 9 plays.
It's the same thing. You know what? We're Geno Smith. We didn't have the greatest year last year. Honestly, futures were nice, but game to game, we struggled a little here and there. They wrote us off. They wrote us off, but we didn't write back. We are just like Geno Smith. We're just going to take what you give us. I'm not going to force anything, but if you put a lineup I like, I'm going to bet it. So I bet a lot, and I added one. I mean, you talked me into finally pulling the trigger on the Arizona under 51 and a half for me there too. Jesus Christ, Andy.
Love it.
It's going to be a lot of action. This is fun.
Love it.
All right, yes, and hit the thumbs up, you guys. AJ Donaldson points it out. Please, that does help us a lot if you enjoyed anything we said, if you learned anything, if you had fun chatting with the other guys in the chat or just reading the comments, please hit the thumbs up. That helps us a lot on YouTube. Subscribe if you're not. If you're listening to this in podcast form, go to YouTube. It's on your phone already. You know it is. Pull this up and just give it a thumbs up anyway. Leave a 5-star review. Shout out to all the guys in the Discord. A lot of smart opinions there. Had me thinking. I don't write a lot in there, but I read damn near everything in the NFL chat. Good job this week, guys, and good luck.
What was the hottest? What were the hottest looks?
Just the back and forth on Tampa and New Orleans today. The hand wringing.
Are there some people? Are there some New Orleans stance?
Well, there were people that were on it. There were people on it from earlier. There were people on it from the summer. And then it was just constant, like, oh, here's more injury news. Oh, here's more news. Oh, shit, this guy's hurt. Oh, Julio's out. Oh, my God. Like, there was a lot of talk about that game today.
Oh, man. That was going to be a fun one.
Yeah, deep dive D-Gens, we salute you.
Going to find out what
I was about to bet.
Feel about that one tomorrow.
See you guys.
We gotta do some more Discording. Deep dive Discord, you guys rock.
I just
Chat,
like
you guys rock. Thank you.
When I have a moment to sit down and read, if you get my meaning, I will always catch up with the Discord. That's when I'm pooping.
The deep dive